You go completely blank. Someone asks you a question, in English, and your brain just stops. Your mouth opens, nothing comes out, and for a few awful seconds you're standing there looking like a Wi-Fi router that just lost signal. Sound familiar? Here's the thing, this doesn't just happen to English learners. It happens to native speakers, to professors, to politicians, to people who've been speaking English their whole lives. The difference? Native speakers have a secret toolkit, a set of phrases, habits, and mental moves that let them handle any question, in any situation, without freezing, without panicking, and without saying, "I don't know," in a way that makes them look clueless. And today, I'm giving you that entire toolkit. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what to say when you don't know the answer. You'll know how to buy yourself thinking time without sounding awkward. You'll know how to respond to hard, unexpected, or uncomfortable questions with total confidence, in natural, native-level English. And I'm going to show you something toward the end of this video that most English learners never realize about how confident people actually think, and it's going to change the way you speak forever. But first, let's talk about why this moment, the blank, frozen moment, feels so terrifying. It's not actually about the English. I want you to hear that again. When you freeze after a question, it's usually not because your vocabulary failed you. It's because you think you're supposed to have the perfect answer immediately. And when you don't, you panic. That panic cuts off your language access like a power outage. Suddenly you can't remember words you definitely know. You can't form sentences you've said 100 times. It's not a language problem. It's a thinking under pressure problem. And the fix isn't learning more vocabulary. The fix is learning what to do in those first 2 or 3 seconds, because those seconds determine everything. Here's your first tool right now. It's called a bridge phrase. A bridge phrase is something you say while your brain catches up to the question. It sounds totally natural to any native speaker, and it gives you 3 to 5 seconds of breathing room. Here's the best one to start with. That's actually a really good question, let me think about that for a second. Repeat after me. That's actually a really good question, let me think about that for a second. Say it again. That's actually a really good question, let me think about that for a second. Now, I know what you're thinking. Won't people notice I'm stalling? No. They genuinely won't. Because that phrase sounds so natural, so confident, and so thoughtful that people actually think more of you for saying it. It signals that you take questions seriously. It signals that you don't just blurt out the first thing that comes to mind. It sounds like something an intelligent, composed person says, because it is. But bridge phrases are just the beginning. What happens after those 3 seconds? What do you actually say when you still don't have the full answer? What do you say when someone asks you something you've never thought about, or something that puts you on the spot, or something where you genuinely have no idea? That's where we're going next. And I promise, the answer is simpler and more powerful than you expect. One more thing before we dive in. Think about the last time someone asked you a question in English and you felt that freeze. Hold that moment in your mind. By the time this video is over, that moment will never feel the same way again. Let's go. Okay, so you've bought yourself a few seconds with a bridge phrase. Now what? This is where most people make the biggest mistake. They try to fake a full answer. They ramble. They repeat themselves. They add filler words like and and basically until the answer sounds like a pile of word soup. And what happens? The listener stops trusting them. Here's the mindset shift that changes everything. You don't have to know the answer. You have to know how to handle not knowing the answer. Those are 2 completely different skills, and only one of them is always within your control. Let me show you what this looks like in real life. Imagine you're at work. Your manager calls you into a meeting and asks, "What do you think is the main reason our sales dropped last quarter?" You weren't expecting that. You haven't looked at the data. You have some instincts, but no confident answer. Here's what most people say, I'm not sure, maybe it could be. I don't really know. And here's what a confident English speaker says, honestly, off the top of my head, I'd point to a few things, but I'd want to look at the numbers before I give you a definitive take. My gut says it's partly the market shift in Q3, but I don't want to give you the wrong picture. Can I come back to you on that after I've had a chance to dig in? Same knowledge. Completely different impression. Notice what happened there. 3 things. First, they were honest. They didn't pretend. Second, they used language that framed their uncertainty as thoughtfulness, not ignorance. And third, they gave a partial answer while making a plan to give a better one. That's not weakness. That's professionalism. Let me break down the key phrases from that response, because you need these in your toolkit right now. Off the top of my head, this tells the listener, I'm giving you my immediate instinct, not a researched answer. It manages their expectations before you even answer. Use this when you have a feeling but not a fact. Repeat after me, off the top of my head, I'd say. I don't want to give you the wrong picture. This is gold. This phrase makes you sound careful and intelligent. It says, I care about accuracy. I'm not going to just talk to fill the silence. Use this when you genuinely aren't sure. Repeat after me. I don't want to give you the wrong picture, but can I come back to you on that? This is one of the most underused phrases in English conversation, and it is 100% native. It means, I want to give you a proper answer, and I need a little time to do that. No apology. No embarrassment. Just a confident request for space to get it right. Repeat after me. Can I come back to you on that? Now let's talk about a different situation. What about when someone asks you a personal opinion question, and you genuinely haven't formed an opinion yet? This happens constantly. Someone at a dinner table asks, so what do you actually think about remote work? Is it better or worse for people's mental health? You've never really thought about it that hard. What do you say? Most people either blurt out a half-baked opinion they don't really believe, or they say I don't know and go quiet. Neither of those is great. Here's what a native speaker does instead. They think out loud, deliberately. That's a tough one, honestly. I think there's a real case to be made on both sides. On one hand, I know people who've thrived working from home, more flexibility, less commute stress. On the other hand, some people I know are lonelier than they've ever been. I don't think I've fully made up my mind on it yet, but if I had to land somewhere, I'd probably say it depends massively on the person's living situation. See what happened? That person didn't have a polished answer. But they thought out loud in a structured, fluent way, and they landed somewhere real. That's what confident English speakers do. They don't wait to have the perfect thought. They build the thought while speaking. Here's how you do that. Use what I call the Think Out Loud framework. It has 3 steps. Step 1, acknowledge the complexity. Step 2, explore both sides briefly. Step 3, land somewhere, even if it's tentative. Try this, honestly, that's something I go back and forth on. Part of me thinks, but then again. So I guess if I had to say, I'd lean toward. Repeat after me, honestly, that's something I go back and forth on. Part of me thinks, but then again. Practice filling in the blanks with any topic. Do it with a friend. Do it in the mirror. Do it right now if you want. Pause the video and try it. Because that pattern alone will make you sound dramatically more fluent in real conversations. And here's the part most English learners never figure out, and this is honestly the most important thing I'll say today, so stay with me. There's a category of questions that aren't really asking for information. They are testing your confidence. They are social moments disguised as questions. Things like, what do you think is wrong with my idea? Or, do you really think you're ready for this? Or even just, why do you believe that? These aren't about facts. They're about whether you can hold your ground under pressure. And if you shrink, if you immediately backtrack, or over-apologize, you don't just lose the argument, you lose credibility. Here's what confident English sounds like under that kind of pressure. Someone challenges you. That seems like a pretty naive take. Weak response, oh, yeah, maybe you're right. I wasn't really sure anyway. Confident response, I can see why it might come across that way, but here's what I'm basing it on. The difference is massive. The confident version doesn't attack back. It doesn't crumble either. It acknowledges the other person's perspective, which is respectful, and then it holds the ground, which is strong. That combination, acknowledging and then holding firm, is one of the most powerful communication moves in the English language. Let me give you a few phrases for exactly this situation. These are what native speakers use to stay composed when they are challenged. I can see where you're coming from, but acknowledges them. Then redirects. That's fair, and I'd push back a little on that, because agrees partially. Then disagrees clearly. I hear you. I just think the evidence points in a different direction. Respectful but firm, repeat after me, that's fair, and I'd push back a little on that, because. Say it with confidence. Say it like you mean it, that's fair, and I'd push back a little on that, because. Feel that. That's what it feels like to hold your ground in English. Not aggressive. Not apologetic. Just solid. Now, let me quickly give you the 3-second rule, because this works in any situation. Whenever you're asked a question that catches you off guard, pause for exactly 3 seconds before you respond. Not longer, 3 seconds. In real conversation, 3 seconds feels natural and thoughtful. It doesn't feel like silence. And in those 3 seconds, your brain does something remarkable. It stops panicking and starts processing. It retrieves language you actually have. It finds the thought you were looking for. Most people skip those 3 seconds because silence feels uncomfortable. But silence isn't emptiness. In the right hands, silence is confidence. Native speakers use it all the time. The next time you're asked something you don't immediately know, count to 3 in your head. Then open your mouth. You'll be amazed at what comes out. Let's talk about where you started this video. You started with that freeze. That blank, awful, signal lost moment when someone asks you something in English and your whole system shuts down. You thought that was a language problem. Now you know it's not. It never was. What you were missing wasn't vocabulary. It wasn't grammar. It was a framework, a way of handling uncertainty that makes you sound intelligent, composed, and confident even when you're figuring it out as you go. And today you got that framework. You learned bridge phrases that buy you time without sounding evasive. You learned how to frame uncertainty as thoughtfulness, not weakness. You learned the think out loud framework for opinion questions. You learned how to hold your ground under pressure with phrases that are firm and respectful at the same time. And you learned the 3-second rule, the simplest and most powerful tool in this entire video. Here's the final mindset shift I want to leave you with. And this one is a game changer. Fluency isn't about having all the answers. Fluency is about what you do with the gaps. Every single native speaker, every professor, every journalist, every lawyer, every person you've ever looked at and thought, they speak so well, every one of them gets asked questions they can't fully answer. Every day. The gap is universal. What's not universal is knowing how to navigate the gap with grace. That's the skill. That's what separates someone who sounds fluent from someone who doesn't, not the knowledge they have, but the confidence in how they handle what they don't. You have that now. Use it. Try this today. Have a real conversation in English, with a friend, a co-worker, a classmate, a stranger online, and deliberately use at least one phrase from this video when you're put on the spot. Just one. Off the top of my head. Or can I come back to you on that? Or that's fair, and I'd push back a little on that. Pick one and use it for real. See what happens. I think it's going to surprise you. And when it does, come back here and leave a comment. Tell me which phrase you used and what happened. I read every single one. Honestly, those comments are the reason I make these videos, and reading them genuinely makes my day. If this video helped you feel even 1% more confident about speaking English, hit subscribe. Because every week I'm putting out content exactly like this, real English, real situations, real tools that actually work in real life. Not textbook stuff. Not grammar rules. The actual language of confident, fluent people, and how you can speak it too. You're not behind. You're not broken. You just needed the right tools. And now you have them. Go speak boldly.